Hi and welcome to my first video detailing my adventures with my circular sock knitting machine, or CSM as you might see it referred to. My machine is affectionately known as Gertie. The reason for that is my dad actually used to work in textiles, and there was a lady that worked at his factory called Gertrude, and she was just a fabulous lady, and for some reason as soon as I got this circular sock knitting machine, Gert popped into my head, hence why my machine is called Gertie. So the first episode in the series, I'm actually just going to talk a little bit about my machine, where I got it from and my experiences of using it. There are quite a few places that you can buy machines from. You can buy brand new ones like I did, or you can buy second-hand ones from eBay or a restorer. There are some groups online where you can buy restored circular sock machines from, and they're restored by experts. Or obviously you could use a more local based one. In the UK we have a website called Gumtree, and I think in America you have Craigslist and things like that, where you can buy machines from local or not so local people and actually go and collect them. The reason that I chose to buy a new machine was I did look at all my options. I started researching it probably 2 years ago and actually got my machine about 4 or 5 months ago. So I spent a long time researching. My reasons for buying a new machine were that the parts were more readily available. I did have somebody to go back to if I had issues or if the machine wasn't working properly. There were resources available for me to go back to the manufacturer directly and ask them questions. That's not something that I've had to do yet, which is fantastic. But obviously those resources are there, and also parts are more readily available should anything stop working or break, or if I need replacement needles or anything like that, I can get them quite easily and not have to worry about where I'm going to get them from, how much they're going to cost me, and if they're even going to work. So my machine is an Erlbacher Gearhart Speedster. It's a red machine. It's the basic package. They actually offer 2 packages, a basic package and a deluxe package. I chose the basic package, and that came with 1 cylinder. This is a cylinder, and basically what the cylinder is it's where the needles sit in the machine. And if I just pop some of the needles up, you can see them just here, and they come in all sorts of different sizes depending on the size of socks that you want to make. So this one is a 48 cylinder. This is one that I've just purchased, and this is for making smaller size socks, so probably for children, and that's exactly why I bought mine. You can see that I've popped the needles in. Let me just get it to focus. I've actually popped the needles into this just so that I can show you how the machine works. So as the machine rotates around, the cylinder stays still and bolted to the machine, and then the needles pop up and down. I've actually just got a hair bubble here stopping the needles from falling out of the bottom, just so that I can show you what the cylinder is. So this is the smallest size that Erlbacher Gearhart do, and this is a 48, and they go up to 100. So all that the cylinder part means is obviously it's a cylinder that fits on the machine, and the number means the number of stitches that will be made in your sock. So that's an example of the cylinder. A lot of questions that I have regarding the machine was, how much did it cost? Well, obviously being based in the UK, I bought a machine from the USA. So not only did I have to pay the purchase price, I also had to pay shipping charges and import and customs duties when it came to the UK. So it wasn't a cheap purchase. I believe these retail on Erlbacher Gearhart's website at the moment at $1,395, and obviously then I had associated costs on top, so it wasn't a cheap purchase. And yes, I could have purchased a second-hand one for probably 1/3 of the price, but I've already told you the reasons why I went and bought a new one. So, like I said, I've had it for about 5 months. I've had a lot of experience cranking out lots of long tubes when I first started, and I would go back afterwards and put the cuff, heel and toe in myself by hand. And now I'm at the point where I can do the cuff on the machine, although it's not a ribbed cuff at this point, because that's a bit that I haven't quite learnt yet. But I can do heels and toes as well. So I can do a full sock on the machine, apart from just grafting the toe together at the end by hand. One other question that seems, or opinion that seems to be passed perhaps about the sock knitting machine, is that it's not actually knitting. people say that it is and people say that it isn't, and both have valid arguments for their own reasons, and I'm not saying that one is right over the other. My belief is that it is knitting. When you set up the machine, you have to choose obviously the size of or the number of stitches that you want to cast on, so you base your decision on the cylinder, and then if you're knitting socks for yourself, you adjust the tension obviously to fit your foot and how you like to wear your socks, and you are physically turning the handle. You're keeping an eye constantly on your yarn to make sure it doesn't tangle and you don't have any tension issues. You're moving weights constantly. You then have to decide where to put your heel and obviously knit down the foot, and then where to put your toe. If problems arise, you have to fix them. If you drop stitches, you have to fix those. So it really, to me, is knitting. And I did actually see my friend Amber, who's the yarn hoarder, she has the Yarn Hoarder podcast. She also has a circular sock knitting machine. And the way that she explained it was, if you make a dress on a sewing machine, is it any less hand sewed because you used a machine as opposed to actually sewing it physically by hand with a thread and needle? No, it doesn't. It's still handmade. You still source the materials yourself. You've picked the ones that are appropriate for what you want to use, and you've actually used it and made it yourself by hand through the medium of a machine, yes, but it's still your mind making the decisions. You're not putting it onto a robotic machine and pressing a button and letting it do the work for you. You are actually making the decisions and doing those bits yourself. So what I'll do is I'll just show you a little bit about my machine and how it works, and then I will end this episode just based on the machine and what it actually does itself, and then I'll go on to do some more episodes detailing about how I set the machine up. Okay, so I'm actually just going to film this and hold the camera, so if it does shake, I'm really sorry. So here is my machine as it sits on my table. As you can see, you've got a handle just here that actually rotates the machine around, and the cylinder sits inside. This is a bracket here that you can attach a ribbing to. You've got the two wheels that turn the machine around. Your needles are all around the outside. They're latch hooks. So if I can just show you on here. Let's get it to focus on these. It might take a while because they're so tiny. Okay, so you can see the little latch hooks here on the needles. So as they go down, they trap the yarn in so it doesn't slip. At the back here, we have a yarn guide. So the yarn feeds through the back of the yarn guide just here, and then through this hole just here, and then the yarn is pulled around by this, which I'll show you in just a second. You have a row counter on the side of the machine. Excuse my phone going off. And there's a weight just here and some hooks. Let's move this yarn. So there's a weight just here that you hang, and I'll show you some more of that in a moment. And then this post just here is where you actually feed your yarn through. So the yarn comes up through the back just here, and then runs along and through these guides at the front, down through here, and then feeds through the guide that I showed you a minute ago. So that is the basic components of the machine. It stands on a little bracket just here that's held on with a screw, and that is basically it. So it's a very simple, straightforward piece of machinery really. And what I will do now is set it up just so that you can see it in action. Okay, so I've not got anything actually on the machine. I just wanted to show you the motion. So just here is your yarn feeder. So the yarn will go through just here. And as you turn the handle, you might be able to see that the needles go up and down, catching the yarn. So it's a very smooth movement. They do recommend, or the retailer recommends, that you clean the machine and take it apart every 15 hours of use. So it takes me around an hour at the moment to make one pair of socks, maybe just under. So every time I knit 15 pairs, I take the machine apart and give it a good clean. I will do a video on that at some point, because if you can probably see, if I can zoom in a little on the machine, there's a lot of dust build up just here where the bottom of the needles are. So if I just lift those needles up, there's a lot of dust in this sort of ravine just here. So that will need doing soon. So if I can just show you again, you can just see the needles moving up and down. It's very therapeutic. So that basically is my machine. I'll show you now some of the bits that come with it, just so that you can see what you get when you do purchase one brand new. Okay, so in the background here, I've got a porta bin. I'll just move some of my bits out of the way. I keep all of my sock machine related stuff in a porta bin. So I've got a notebook in here. I've got my oil that comes with the machine. I've got a spare cylinder. This is a 72 cylinder. I've got a 64 in the machine and then the 48. You get a cast on bonnet, which is a knitted sock, basically part of a knitted sock, with some loops at the top, which you actually hang on your machine, and I'll show you that next time. Move those out of the way. You get a set of weights on a hook, and then I've got a spare weight here too, so you get 3 weights in total, so you can adjust the amount of weight that actually hangs on the bottom of your sock. You get all of the screwdrivers and wrenches and spanners and things that you'll need for your machine when you take it apart. And then in this box here, I've just got a little old tin. I've got some spare needles, lots of spare needles in fact. I've got a buckle, which is what you clip onto the bottom of your working sock and hang your weights from this hole just here. And then I've got, finally, the last piece that you get with the machine is a double-ended tool. So it's got a, if you can see, just try and get this to, on one side of the hook, there's a very sharp pointed end, and then on the other side, there's a hook. So it's just like a needle from the machine, just without the latch hook. So that's a double-ended tool. And also in my little tin here, I've got a Sharpie, which I actually mark the halfway points of my cylinders on, which I'll explain. I've got a small 1.5mm crochet hook that I use to pick up any drop stitches, a pen for taking notes, some scissors, and what else do I have in here? Oh, there's also some spare bits, so you get a spare spring to put around the outside of your cylinder, and also with the machine, which I missed out, you actually get this crescent tool, which actually helps you lift the needles up without getting your hands and your nails involved too much. So that's what you get with the machine. So for the next video, let me just turn this up here. So for the next video, I'm actually going to show you how to set the machine up itself, how to pop your cast on bonnet on, and how to get going with your circular sock knitting machine.